Is there anything that you wish you would have done differently as chief medical examiner?
And I don't have no remorse, no problems.
Autopsies performed by a longtime Travis County medical examiner now in question. Over nearly 30 years, Dr. Roberto Bayardo's work behind these walls helped send many people behind bars. And we know now, in at least one murder case, the wrong man went to prison for 25 years, while the real killer roamed free.
Hello and welcome to a special investigative edition of State of Texas In Depth. I'm Josh Hinkle. Across the state, there has often been little oversight of medical examiners in the past, and many rural counties rely on larger counties that have these positions to perform their autopsies. This morning, we're taking a closer look at the body of evidence about the longtime former ME in Travis County.
Mushrooms, squash, olives, and tomatoes. The ingredients for a conviction in one of the most notorious criminal cases in Central Texas history, the 1986 murder of Christine Morton, beaten to death in her own bed.
Morton is charged with killing his wife, Christine. Her body was found in the bedroom of the couple's home south of Georgetown August 13th. Her skull had been smashed with a blunt instrument.
Her husband Michael's fate hinged on the testimony of this man, Travis County Chief Medical Examiner Roberto Bayardo.
Then I proceeded to examine the rest of the internal organs.
His findings helped tell the story of the couple's night out to dinner, celebrating Michael's birthday. Christine's autopsy revealed only semi-digested food in her stomach, leading Bayardo to the conclusion she died mere hours after the meal, before Michael left for work the next morning.
With the medical examiner's testimony conflicting with Morton's alibi, most jury members were already convinced.
We talked about it for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we took a vote.
To convict Michael Morton of murder and less than 1 hour to hand down a life sentence.
Real shocked. I didn't do this.
I'm sorry, what?
I did not do this.
No opinion.
It would be the last and only time Bayardo says he used what someone ate to determine when they died. In a 2011 sworn statement, he said that method is not based on science, just one of many revelations leading to Michael's eventual freedom.
I thank God this wasn't a capital case, that I only had life.
Beyond that case, we found a handful of others where Bayardo has changed his opinion years later. But why? During our research, we discovered something one expert says could certainly cause a miscarriage of justice, something Travis County leaders knew was happening years before Bayardo stepped down, something we'll explain coming up.
He performed thousands of autopsies in Central Texas, some say too many.
What's the risk of having a caseload that big?
It's a bad situation.
What happened behind the walls of the Travis County morgue? And was money a motivation?
We didn't know he was making this money. Nobody came to us and said, hey, he's getting paid on the side.
Coming up on this special edition of State of Texas In Depth, we continue to investigate this medical examiner's body of evidence next. His work had the power to get killers off the street and send people to prison. But some autopsies performed by Travis County's former chief medical examiner have been called into question over the years.
Welcome back to this special investigative edition of State of Texas In Depth. Did Roberto Bayardo make missteps that hindered justice in some of the most high-profile crimes in Central Texas? And prosecutors still call him to testify for murder cases in which he performed autopsies long ago. This morning, we lay out the body of evidence leading to questions about some of those autopsies. Critics point to murder cases when Bayardo performed an autopsy, testified in court, then changed his story many years later. A babysitter on death row. She died in prison, awaiting release when Bayardo said the child in her care could have died by accident, not intentionally killed. A man within days of execution for strangling a bride-to-be spared, and now awaiting word of an appeal after Bayardo clarified his conclusions on when that woman died. So why go back on his own testimony? We found making money could be at the root of the problem, a problem that took us through thousands of autopsies, including this woman's.
Her name is in a dusty old book at the Travis County morgue, Christine Morton. Scrawled in the writing of the man who performed her autopsy in 1986, Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Roberto Bayardo.
The body was found in the bedroom of the couple's home south of Georgetown August 13th.
A massive blunt injury, 8 blows to the head, still in her blood-stained pink nightgown.
Then I proceeded to examine the rest of the internal organs.
Bayardo discovered food semi-digested in her stomach, pointing him to when she last ate and when she died. That timing and his testimony helped put away Morton's husband for murder.
But with the medical examiner's testimony conflicting with Morton's alibi,
I did not do this.
Morton's autopsy was one of nearly 800 Bayardo performed that year, a massive caseload with little oversight from county leaders. In fact, an analysis of Bayardo's near 3 decades in office shows he consistently performed between 395 and 823 autopsies a year, far exceeding the nationally recommended limit of 325.
My workload consisted of doing about 3 to 4 autopsies every day, every single day, including weekends.
In your expert opinion, is more than 800 autopsies too much?
Yes, that is greatly excessive, and I would be very concerned about the significant error rate.
Dr. Max Buya is a professor at the University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston, known nationally for his expertise in autopsies. He explained by moving through cases too quickly, a medical examiner runs a risk.
Inaccurate diagnoses regarding the cause of death and also the manner of death.
Somebody had to do the work, and there was nobody else to do it.
Did you ever have concerns that doing that many autopsies a year might present challenges with anything in court?
I never thought about that.
You are released subject to the terms and conditions of the bond.
Thank God this wasn't a capital case, that I only had life.
25 years after Christine Morton's murder, her husband was cleared of the crime. The fight for his freedom included a sworn statement from Bayardo, saying the way he determined when Morton died was not scientific. That statement made us wonder, what else would Christine Morton's autopsy report reveal? The county where she was killed didn't have its own medical examiner, so they brought her body here to Bayardo in Travis County, along with $250 for his work.
I was angry about it. I mean, it made me indignant. And then I remember him giving us some resistance about telling us, well, how much did you earn?
Dr. Bayardo.
Former Travis County Judge Bill Alshire says he discovered in the early 90s the ME was supplementing his salary by examining corpses for other counties.
It shows how many autopsies he did, and it shows how much money he got.
That was a financial incentive for him to see how many autopsies he could do.
Doing the corneal removals and doing the tissue work.
That passes unanimously.
Travis County commissioners eventually came to a formal agreement to handle the funds.
The Commissioner's Court does not authorize you to continue doing autopsies for them unless we have a contract in place.
The contract made sure the county made money, even though Bayardo would still keep a cut. And this arrangement did not slow him down. Over time, Bayardo raked in around $2.6 million performing autopsies for 45 other counties.
Bayardo had operated independently without any oversight for way too long. Frankly, in my opinion, he blew it. And I think he stayed longer than he should have.
I earned it. I had the capacity to do it and the professional knowledge to do it. So what's the problem?
The problem is, Bayardo's work and the medical examiner's office faced heavy criticism in the early 2000s. Like the accuracy of his conclusions in a police shooting.
Daniel Rocha's preliminary report showed him having no drugs in his system. Later, the pathologist detected marijuana.
The misidentification of a body.
The autopsy described the body as 23-year-old Clayton Daniels, but a DNA test showed it was the corpse of 81-year-old Charlotte Davis.
And the lack of national accreditation, which would have helped ensure quality and standards. It was something we discovered Bayardo never sought in 28 years on the job.
Is there anything that you wish you would have done differently as chief medical examiner?
Absolutely no.
Nothing?
Nothing. I did everything to the best of my abilities, to the best of my knowledge, and I don't have no remorse, no problems.
Bayardo stepped down in 2006, and today he is in his 80s and living in a retirement village in Houston. But Travis County prosecutors still call him to testify about autopsies he performed in murder cases. In fact, we've learned this summer he's on the list of witnesses in the trial against Mark Norwood, who police say beat this woman, Deborah Baker, to death in her own bed in 1988. It turns out 2 years before, Norwood was the actual killer of the woman in our story, Christine Morton. Critics say had Bayardo done things right with Morton's autopsy, Baker might still be alive today. We will, of course, be following that trial very closely. So what did Bayardo say in his defense? That he didn't have enough money or resources, so he had to perform that many autopsies alone. But we do know he eventually got more staff, more money, and even a new morgue, and his caseload still stayed high. Could he ever face anything legally because of what we've uncovered? Well, the Texas Medical Board typically hasn't gone after medical examiners unless there was clear evidence an autopsy was deliberately mishandled, which could open the door for criminal or civil cases, but there's no proof of that, and Bayardo is no longer practicing. We checked, and the Travis County Medical Examiner's Office did eventually receive national accreditation and will soon have a new facility. Today, it has better records and more staff who no longer receive money for out-of-county autopsies.
Online now, Body of Evidence, a medical examiner's missteps. Go inside my reporting with fellow KXAN investigator David Barrere. We walk you through the case files that point to a problematic history within this Travis County department, interviews with the medical examiner himself, and an interactive breakdown of his autopsies and his high-profile testimony in court. It's in the investigative section of KXAN.com.
For KXAN's political and investigative teams, thank you for joining us for this special edition of State of Texas In Depth. I'm Josh Hinkle. Have a great day.